we are to respect it, like with reverence, because this is their lives you're talking about. And when you do something to them, even if it doesn't cause loss of life, trauma in birth can haunt for generations, right? So you have to really take the time. We have to stop thinking that this is an intervention-heavy system that is causing our families to come out with trauma that they can't handle. And it's pushing us backwards instead of forward.
All right. I thank everybody for coming this evening. There's so much that's in this room with knowledge and information and sharing. I would like to let Susan just kind of reflect on what she heard tonight. I'll give you the microphone.
I think Mo already said part of what I'm going to say, and I think at the Early Education Coalition, what we do is we advocate. We're a coalition that advocates for everything from that encompasses children and families from 0 to 5, right? So that includes maternal health, that includes child care, that includes all sorts of different types of services, and a big piece of the thing that we tell ShLanda and everyone else that we work with when we're doing community organizing is that the stories that you all have, a lot of times, it feels like, and I hear from parents a lot, and I hear from teachers a lot, I want to talk about it, but they don't want to hear my story. But what I'm going to tell you is they have to hear your story. Because things like Medicaid extension are not going to happen if they don't know what's happening and they don't put a face. Like, I can tell them all day long, but until they hear from families who it has happened to, they don't care what I have to say, right? They want to know from people who are experiencing it so that we can get things like Medicaid extension, which, if you know anything about North Carolina, the day I read that in the newspaper, and I texted my coworker and I said, did I read this right? They're actually talking about what happened. So we're close to some things, right? It takes a long time to make change in the state, and it can feel like, just like with the healthcare system, it can feel like things aren't happening to us all the time, right? And so part of what the importance of events like this is to tell you that your stories, I love that I got to experience your stories and hear from you all what your experiences were. And I want to lift those stories up, and I want you to continue to tell those stories to people who need to hear them. And I know ShLanda's going to send this video out to folks that you can remember. Mecklenburg County, we have a lot of folks who want to hear these stories, and these stories will resonate with them, and we'll likely tell them over again, right? And so I'm thankful that you came and shared tonight. I want you to know that that's, we work day in and day out, and what we do is talk to legislators to say, you need to pay attention to this, and this is why. These are the things that are happening to people. And the statistics in North Carolina are sobering and have been for years. And one of the things that I think for everybody in this room to recognize is that part of the reason what you're doing and what we're talking about is so hard is that we're pushing back against hundreds of years of structuralized oppression that's been put in. The system was made to do what it's doing, right? The system is working exactly how it was constructed. And so what we're doing now is telling your stories to convince people to say, we can convince one person to take a bolt out of the system, take one bolt out here, one bolt out there, eventually we're going to disassemble it, right? And it's going to take time, but every time we tell that story to somebody in power, and every time they hear these things and they can kind of internalize it, the closer we get to dismantling the structure that's been built and being able to rebuild it into something that will be better. So thank you all for being here tonight, for sharing, and I know that as we continue to give you opportunities to share your stories, you will, and I encourage you to do that. And if there's anything we can do as you're kind of experiencing your own advocacy journey, don't hesitate to let us know. That's why we're here.
All right. I thank everybody. We have finished for the evening, but I would love to be able to take for us to take like a group picture together real quick, if you all don't mind. And
Okay, so y'all see how those are babies? This is one of my first, 21 years ago, right there. Yeah, it's 21 years later. It's a baby, and what babies turn into.
So your birthday employee.
Thank you. All right, yes, sir.
Well, I have a question. So I know you got, well, North Carolina has a high, mortality rate, or, you know, so is there anything around like helping those, I guess the mothers that lost a child or the family that lost a mother? Like, I'm trying to hold it together. It's been 4 years, but it's still hard. I don't talk about it as much as she does, but sorry. So, like, my aspect, well, how I saw everything it was so involved, because I saw every aspect of it. I saw it from, I saw it from my side, I saw it from her side, I saw it from the doctor's side, I saw it from the nurse's side, I saw it from all the family members' side, I saw it from the ambulance driver's side, I saw it from a teaching hospital side, I saw it from an ancillary hospital side. So every side of the story, I saw it. So it was extremely difficult to know what was going on all the time. So I was almost numb a little bit because I just saw everything and I had to be aware of everything. And I had so many questions, not that many answers. And even the doctors, they're supposed to know everything. Well, you assume they're supposed to know everything and they don't. So, like, one part of, like, the surgery, the guy that was doing the surgery was like, we did everything we could to stop her from bleeding, and we couldn't. There's nothing else we can do. This is a doctor that's supposed to know everything about the surgery, and when that person looks you in your face and say, they can't, there's nothing more they can do. What are you supposed to do with it? Like, how am I supposed to be like, I don't know, like, maybe you should try this, or maybe you should try that. Like, you're supposed to have all the answers, but you don't. So, like they say, you should, to get a doula, and I know, like, for our nonprofit, we help sponsor families, we help, like, educate leaders, like doulas are, they're like the superheroes to birthing advocacy, because you don't know what you don't know until somebody who knows more than you tell you you don't know. So when the doulas, I wouldn't say they're biased, but they know more than you, most of them, because they've gone through, some of them hundreds of births, and like you said, from the physiological aspect, they know that's what they do, so they know what to look for. They understand the changes in your body and your personality and just different things, so they have a more in-tuned aspect of what's going on. So we always tell people, you know, get a doula, because there's gonna be tons of questions that you're not gonna, you might not even think of, and they'll be 5 steps ahead of you. So doula work is very important. And she said, tell your story. I wasn't gonna say anything because I'm like, well, I really didn't want to be a Debbie Downer. Like, I didn't want to I just didn't want to make everybody sad, because like our story is very extremely heavy. So like me telling the story, like it used to take me an hour and a half to tell the story, and I got it down to 45 minutes. But it's still intense. It's a very difficult story to tell, and it's a very heavy story. So I do know that our story needs to be heard, but it's hard to tell and it's hard to listen to, because everybody gives us the same expression every single time. Damn, you went through all that? Really? So, she almost died 3 times, and I was there for all of it, and then we lost a baby, and it was a lot. So, it was just a lot. But doula work is very important. I appreciate you, but I just wanted to ask, do they have help afterwards, if you lose a baby or lose a parent or something? Because there's a lot of people that need it. I know a lot of people don't speak about it, especially men, because we went somewhere else where there was a father, he's like, you're lucky to have a support system, because there's not really a lot of help for the fathers that lose a child. And I felt like I was just as connected as she was. Some, not so much, but I was. And I know, I still need help. So I thought I was good, but I hadn't talked about it in a while. So thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
There was a Medicaid extension recently. I signed up for the program to be a community mental health worker that will allow Medicaid will cover the cost of those services for community mental health workers to come out and make it so that people do have resources and access and referrals to care. We still ain't covering doulas, but that did happen in North Carolina, and the only way to actually get licensed in the jail is through community college. But I am in the first cohort that is coming to our Central Piedmont, so it is coming. And I will tell you this: I deeply understand your pain. My first pastor that was 6 months old, my father said, when you don't talk about it, probably was the beginning of this very long journey that I've been on. And I won't tell you a lot about whether or not it is easy or not, because it's not the truth. The truth is that it's an experience that has to be processed, and you have to go through it, where you have to go back to it and bring this forward.
I was gonna also say that in 2020, when I decided to start my project, it was something that just moved me one day. I was looking at some statistics, and somebody was having a bunch of Don statistics. We'll look at that, right? And with Hillside County being on the report card, I was wondering what in the world is going on with these statistics here. And if I failed my job, I would get kicked out, right? But when we were looking at that, I was just like, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? But we are, and I am working in Winston-Salem with the reproductive justice, the very first reproductive justice grant that Kate Reynolds has ever done. And I just so happen to be the very first reproductive justice organization, 501c3 in Winston. or the triad area actually, and that's the strangest thing to me, that it's 2022 and we are just now able to say to dads, hey, we got resources for you here in Winston-Salem. And how we're going to expand that is basically by doing exactly what you said. We are going to the doctors, we are going to the nurses, and we are letting them know exactly what they have perpetrated in our communities with their repression. Okay? So I can tell you on our side of things, especially in Winston, I work with 2 other nonprofits. We went to the communities, we heard the birth stories, we heard from the dads, and so that's what we're doing in Winston. We're going to the providers that provided this. There's not even a word to describe some of the stories that I've heard of loss, loss of the little ones, loss of the babies. Like, it's gone on 3 generations and 1 zip code, just perpetual losses. Okay? So my concern is the fathers and how they're processing all of this as well. Because, it's my personal belief, and maybe I don't have the statistics to back it up, but I believe that's another reason why we've got such high crime rate. We have so many men that have been hurt so bad, and it's just, it's time for it to get solved. And so talking to those other providers that have perpetually done this for generations, that's how we're going to get this conversation started in Winston-Salem. And we're on phase 2, getting ready to start the 2nd cycle of the grant that I'll be on to do that. So I plan on seeing it through. This is not I started this with a mission, and I'm going to finish it. I start when I finish.
I just want to say, I don't necessarily need a mic, we have a big mouth. And I plan to use it for good. So that's why I think we all are here, is to support each other. And I've heard your wife's story, I've heard the stories of everyone here, and they're not lost upon us. I think we are all listening and absorbing what is happening in our communities and showing up to things like this now to say it's time to change the way that things have been. This is the beginning of us shaking up this system that's existed for years and years and years. And all of us together, especially with the faces that I see here today, I know we will be instrumental in making a change, into making sure there are services for our Black families when they are affected by these losses, when they are affected by these disparities. And so we can all continue to work together and show up and pull up, then we will change up some things that are happening. So that's what I use my voice for. If I can support y'all in any way, please let me know. I get louder than this. So thank you.